While the ordinary young woman treats her youth as a lottery ticket to be spent on cheap, immediate gratification, the elite female views her early years as a high-leverage investment window. Here is the clinical mapping of how the timeline of nature separates the sovereign from the background mass between the ages of 18 and 50. The illusion of the young facade. Youth is a generic genetic premium handed to every female organism by default. True high-value status is an architectural blueprint engineered from within. At 22, the biological matrix creates a confusing mirage. Both the ordinary woman and the elite woman can look equally attractive on a digital screen. They both receive massive, unearned attention, high serotonin boosts from the crowd, and a non-stop stream of validation. But beneath the surface-level symmetry, their brain chemistry is executing completely different programs. The ordinary woman's dopamine engine is entirely desensitized by cheap consumption. She spends her finite youth leaking her attention into social media likes, toxic relationships, and fast-paced party loops. She relies on her short-term genetic capital to command the room, completely blind to the fact that her leverage is tied to a rapidly depreciating biological clock. Conversely, the elite young female possesses high baseline serotonin and dense prefrontal filtering. She does not need the cheap approval of the herd. She treats her early 20s with absolute low cortisol detachment, systematically using her protected years to acquire deep competence, emotional self-containment, and strategic alignment with high-tier networks. The catastrophic reality check. When the biological fog of youth expires, the matrix deletes your defaults and demands to see your actual structural assets. The violent separation between these two tiers becomes undeniable around the age of 30 to 35. This is the exact critical juncture where the biological fog clears and the matrix runs a cold, unyielding audit on every female organism. For the ordinary woman, this phase is an existential disaster. As her youthful premium naturally fades, she realizes she has no secondary assets to trade on the market. Her prefrontal cortex was never trained to strategize. Her amygdala is hyper-reactive from years of validation dependency, and her internal environment collapses into chronic panic. She tries to fight the timeline with heavier filters and desperate cosmetics, but the system cannot be bribed. She sinks into bitter mediocrity, blaming the transactional nature of the world for a deficit she chose to ignore. Part 2. The ledger of the creator distributes assets with perfect mathematical equity. The elite woman does not mourn the passage of time, she welcomes it, because every year that strips away her surface-level vanity adds a massive layer of structural sovereignty to her kingdom. Let us proceed into the final conclusion of how the high-value female dominates the timeline of maturity. The sovereign reign of maturity. The ordinary woman ages like a fading decoration. The elite woman matures like an unshakable empire. At 45 and 50, the inversion of the female hierarchy is total. The ordinary woman has become completely invisible to the social matrix, trapped at the bottom of the food chain, mourning a youth she mismanaged. But the elite woman has entered her true sovereign station. She no longer needs a youthful facade to command respect because she controls tangible, unforgeable leverage. She has built independent capital, mastered deep psychological diagnostics, and fortified an elite family lineage. Her prefrontal cortex is fully developed and completely dominates her primitive survival networks. She radiates a calm, magnetic authority that forces high-status men and institutions to seek her counsel and protection. She is not a victim of time. She is the administrator of her own domain, looking at the human food chain with cold, clinical clarity. The final execution of rank. To envy a temporary mask is the ultimate failure of clarity. Your final value is written by the depth of your structure, not the symmetry of your skin. This is the ultimate perspective shift for the female matrix. If you are a woman navigating this system, You must stop looking at your life through the shallow poetry of modern trends. Your starting youth is a loan from the heavens, not your personal property. If you use it purely for consumption, the system will ruthlessly recycle you into background mass. Run a cold audit on your current neurochemistry. Quiet your amygdala through systematic long-term focus. Diversify your hardware by acquiring irreplaceable utility, protect your emotional borders, and understand that true nobility is not inherited at birth. It is forged in the dark through relentless discipline.